What is going on, Nathan Valley? How you doing today, bro?
Yo, my man. How you doing, brother?
I'm ready to talk about something that really gets my engine revving and talking about deals. How to analyze a real estate deal. That's what we're going to be talking about. No, what you laughing about, bro?
I don't
Engine revving. That's
it gets you all right, man.
getting excited
we can roll with it.
All right, that might be like some sexual innuendo. I don't know.
I feel like you got to make a house reference, right? You can't make a car reference. Really.
Really gets my swamp cooler cooling. I don't know. Anyway, guys, this is what we're going to be talking about today is how to analyze a real estate deal. Okay. Because we analyze deals as a part of, what would you say, Nate? How we help our clients do deals. We look at deals that they're doing and we say, hey, this is an opportunity or not. We help them through that process because a lot of people, when they first get started, they don't really know if they're looking at someone who will waste their time or not. We don't want you wasting your time. So that's what we're going to be breaking down is how to analyze a real estate deal. Is this a seller? Is this someone you should be talking to? Or is it a complete waste of time? You're about to find out on this call today. Go ahead, Nate.
And yeah, guys, real quick before you're like, I know how to analyze deals. I know how to come. Guys, pause. Hold the phone. Again, this is more important than you probably think. A lot of people think, no, I need to get better. Like, how do I find the most motivated sellers? What's the best, one line to use when negotiating? Yeah, that stuff's cool. But guys, especially when first getting started, the thing that I see being the biggest constraint for new wholesalers. I know this was true for me when I first got started. Yes, those other things I mentioned are important, but the thing that took up the most amount of time was wasting my time on deals that I thought were opportunities, but really weren't. And it didn't really have too much to do with comping or knowing ARV or whatnot, right? That we're talking just a little bit deeper than that when we talk about really analyzing a deal, because it's more than just what do I think the ARV is.
Exactly.
So that's what we're going to be talking about.
So before we get into how to analyze deals the painless way, I want to tell you guys who I am, just because if this is the first time you're tuning in, you're probably like, why should we listen to Nathan Payne? Who's this guy? Why should we listen to Nathan Valley?
Swamp cooler, man.
What is it? What the heck is swamp coolers? They have those in Utah and in Arizona.
It's a made up thing. Don't believe
me. Believe me, they exist. So my name's Nathan Payne. I've been in the industry for several years now, 6 years plus, and I've done hundreds of deals, done millions in transactions. And yeah, we're excited. I'm excited to give you guys this information because I don't want you wasting time. Okay. Whether we ever do a deal or work together or not on a deal or anything, my goal is for you to be able to do more deals and not waste time like I did. Man, I spent a year following up with an old grandma and then thinking that was a deal. And then immediately, like when I called her once or she called me, her daughter walked in and was like, well, who are you talking to? Oh, some guy wants to buy my house. She chewed me out. I should have known if I'm talking to an 80-year-old, I probably should have asked if there was another decision maker. I spent a year of my life talking to her. Wait, was it a good experience? Yeah, it was okay. But
you learn. Lesson learned. Yeah, I've got a no, I don't want to say no old people policy, but you guys know, like if you get on the phone with somebody and it's just like, bro, it sounds like they've got some life under their belt, right? And they sound like they've been around for a while. Guys, I don't even really talk to the Brit. Say, ask for a family member. Hey, do you have anybody else that can help you, or with making this decision, or
yes, that anyone else we need to talk
to know, and then get on the phone with them. But enough about that, guys. Who am I? My name is Nathan Valley. I've been wholesaling for about 5 years. Done a bunch of deals, bunch of different states. I'm known for locking up over 100 contracts in a single year. Also, some of you might have seen a 30-day challenge I did a while ago to where I picked totally brand new market, no contacts, no resources, nothing. And my goal was to do a deal in 30 days. And I did. I did a $20,000 deal without spending any money on marketing. And what perfectly fits into this topic that we're talking about today, I also was able to do that by only working 2 to 3 hours Monday through Friday each morning. I streamed the whole thing live from this camera. And and I was like explaining stuff to the camera for half of that, right? So I had like 90 minutes of actual focused work Monday through Friday. The only way that is possible is if I was really good at knowing how to identify and pick opportunities, right? Knowing how to analyze a deal. Is this worth my time or is it not? And especially if you guys, some of you might be working part-time or full-time jobs. You might not have a full 8 to 10 hours a day to be working on just wholesaling stuff. So if you have a limited amount of time, this is really important so that you can be as effective and efficient as possible.
Thank you, Nathan, for that beautiful intro on who you are. Don't worry. I went wild on mine too. We went long, but hey, thank you. So guys, what is how to analyze the deal? Well, usually when people think of that, Nate, they think of what are the comps, right? Like go to batch leads and it tells you right now what it believes the estimated value is. What's the problem? There's nothing wrong with batch. There's nothing wrong with Zillow, nothing wrong with all things, but they're dealing with data, right? They're dealing with an algorithm. So it's very difficult. That's why it's a skill set. You can't just always just go off of the estimated value. You have to actually be able to understand what side of the street is this house on? Is this in a neighborhood that's nicer than the other neighborhoods? Things are very different, just from one block from the other, different school zones, different school districts. So analyzing, yes, you need data, but we're talking about really analyzing a deal, like in the sense of talking to a seller as well. Is it worth your time to continue the conversation? That's what we really want to hit on. The data, we're not going to go too much into that. You go to Batch Leads. They got great stuff. That's what we use. And, but we're talking about something a little bit deeper. Do you have anything you want to say to that, Nate?
Yeah, one thing when analyzing a deal, right? Analyzing comping a deal, it's not a firm science. It's more of an art. All right. And I say that because again, there's no one specific algorithm to where you can click a button and like, hey, here's the formula to calculate. Boom, this is exactly what the ARV is. Right. I know I've heard some people kind of mention appraisers and hey, here's the strict rules and guidelines that they follow. And that stuff is good for a guideline, right? To get a good general idea, but it's not a firm set number. It's more of an art because there's certain things, there's a lot of things that come into play when somebody is buying a home that can't just be calculated as a number in square footage or sold comps or whatnot. I'll give a perfect example. You guys, when looking at deals, whether you've talked to a seller and analyzed the home, or maybe just looking on Zillow and trying to, practice running the numbers, sometimes you'll be looking at a property and be like, wait, I found this one sold comp. It's just like this one. It's in the same neighborhoods, similar beds, baths, square footage, similar style. And you're like, I don't know why, but this thing sold for like over $100,000 more than everything else in this neighborhood. Like, if this is the comp, like, oh, this is a deal, right? And you look it up and you're like, okay, yeah, no, this is like, this house really sold for this number, but that's not the whole story, right? And again, guys, the number one thing when you're analyzing a deal, I like to approach it to where imagine you're in court, right? And you're going to talk to that cash buyer, right? And you're going to have to make your case, right? Make an argument as why you believe this is the ARV. This is, you think it'll sell for this price because of X, Y, and Z, right? Again, it's not a science. You're building the best case possible. So the one thing that a buyer might bring up, he's like, yeah, I see that house, that comp that sold for $100,000 more, but that house sold higher than any other home in that entire neighborhood ever. And it was just one house. He's like, dude, I think that was a special scenario, right? Now that's going to be a hard argument. So I actually had this exact scenario. It was a deal in Florida and same thing. There was a comp that stood out like a sore thumb, right? And the number one question is something about like that something's up. And guys, if something seems off or if it stands out to where it's like, that doesn't really make sense, right? Could be in a good way, could be in a bad way, right? Could help your comp, could not help your comp, whatever. If something stands out, if something doesn't make sense, there's probably a reason for it. So do a little bit of digging. So I called the agent that listed that property. I said, hey, I saw this property that you sold a couple of months ago on, 123 Main Street. She's like, oh yeah, what about it? I was like, hey, beautiful home. You did such a good job, blah, blah, blah. Like you guys got an amazing price. I'm actually looking to potentially fix up and sell a house right around the corner. It's just like this one. But I noticed you got such a good price on this home. You did such a good job. I was wondering, is there something that I'm not seeing? Is there something I'm missing as to why it sold at this price? And the agent, she's like, yes. She was like, you can't tell. She was like, the thing that sold this house, and like without skipping a beat, she's like, the thing that sold this house was the backyard. Oof. And she's like, from the pictures, you can't really tell, yeah, it's nice, it's whatever, but no, it doesn't look like anything fancy. She was like, the backyard was big, but she's like, the real thing, the backside of this house, you can't tell from the pictures, but it has this view overlooking an entire national park.
Oh,
and she's like, that is what, like that view, she was like, is absolutely priceless. And she's like, that is what sold this home.
There you go. You wouldn't know that.
Oh,
you wouldn't know that.
I want to know that. Right. And again, that's just one small example, but that's what we're looking for. And again, that's just talking about ARV and price.
Let me give an example, Nate.
Yeah.
Let me come in real quick. I just sold my house in Salt Lake City, Utah. Zillow says, and most of the algorithms say that it's worth $550. I just sold it for $652. So how was I able to sell for $652 and not $550? Because I live in an area where some of the homes around there bring down the comps, right? So, but I live in a different part of that area, right? And that's not only that, I also have an ADU, an additional dwelling unit, where I rent out my basement. They call it mother-in-law basement apartment. So I rent that out. So that's valuable. So if you took my home in my neighborhood, the exact same model, but tried to sell for the same amount, it probably wouldn't go if they didn't have an ADU, right? So there's a couple of things that you need to know. But again, this call is to say, hey, all that's great. That's very important to know that. But before you even get into all that, like where the numbers are, you have to understand and analyze if you are talking with the right person, if you're speaking, like if you're dealing with the right opportunity. Let me give an example. This is perfect. My garage. I love you, don't know you, but I care about you, and I want to use you as an example. Okay. I appreciate you interacting. And I really think it's important that everybody that's watching this live should interact, because this is for you guys. So he's saying, I've thrown offers typically at 70% of ARV through cold calling. I believe I have to work on my delivery because I've gotten a ton of hard no's. Perfect example, guys. Nate, when's the last time you gave, no offense, my garage, we love you. When's the last time you gave an offer on the first call?
It's been a minute. I honestly can't even remember. And to be fair, guys, this is what we're taught, right? It's not your fault. This is what everyone's taught is, I got to do 70% times ARV minus repairs. And then for repairs, let me use this generic price per square foot to calculate if something's a deal. Guys, when analyzing a deal, there's one really, really important truth that took me a long time to learn. Does not matter how good of a deal we have on paper. If we don't have a cash buyer that's ready, able, or willing to pay us, we don't make any money. Therefore, it's the cash buyer, the investor, that is paying us when it comes to wholesaling. So that is the only person that can really tell us what something's worth. If I'm doing 70% times ARV minus repairs, I cannot use a simple and again, guys, I know what I'm saying right now might sound absolutely insane, because wait, Nate, what do you mean everybody says to use this formula? Just bear with me. Just think about it, right? One formula, 70% times ARV minus repairs. People say, just use this one generic formula to calculate if something's a deal or not a deal for every single buyer in every single state, every single market across the entire US. Doesn't add up, right? And as
not only that,
found, doesn't work very well.
And
every market is different and every buyer is different.
Well, not only that, but the reason why they tell you this, my garage, is because if you get a deal at 70% of ARV minus rehab minus your wholesale costs, of course it's a deal. Bring me every deal that you find at that price. And by the way, it's not always a deal in some markets. Some markets you have to be like a 40%, right? You have to be real low. But most of the time when they're saying this in like high areas like Atlanta, Dallas, you got like these markets that are big and there's a lot of competition, a lot of people buying there. Yeah, it's a deal. Okay. And that's why they say, because it's just easy. But I've done deals that when you do the math, like 86% of ARV minus repairs, 90% of ARV minus repairs. Can you imagine letting all those deals go just because you're doing a generic formula? So he's saying, I believe he said, my garage says, I believe I have to work on my delivery. I'm getting a ton of hard no's. Number one, you're getting hard no's because you're probably, depending on what market you're in, you're really, really low on your offer. And people are just like, forget you. Second of all, you're probably getting a lot of hard no's because you're making these offers that people probably aren't ready to make a decision right then. You're probably just saying, hey, this is where I could be around. Would that work for you? And they're like, I don't even know if I'm ready to sell yet, or I don't even know if I want to sell. Like, before we get into the offers, we have to analyze if you are working with someone that is the right opportunity. So let's get into that, Nate.
Just to add to that, guys, a lot of times, whether it's busy, it's very similar kind of the way the human body works. Whatever the symptom is, very rarely is that the root cause. I don't know if anyone kind of works out at the gym or if lift weights, but if you've been doing that for a while, you've probably, without a doubt, have tweaked something or gotten issues. For me, I've had elbow pain, really bad elbow pain for the past 2-3 weeks, right? You think, oh man, it's my elbow. I got to stretch out my forearms or something. No, the elbow pain is actually because of an issue of the shoulder not functioning properly, or at least for me, this was the case. Bad elbow pain because my shoulder isn't functioning properly, and my shoulder isn't functioning properly because my back muscles are too tight, right? So it's you go 3 steps back and it's oh, that's the problem. Same thing. And again, we see this all the time to where someone's like, oh man, I got to get better at sales. It's not that you need to get better at the sales and negotiating. I'm sure there's improvements we can all make there, right? Nothing wrong with that. But that's not the core issue, I would bet, right? The core issue, it's not that you need to get better at negotiating, making offers. It's that we're not analyzing the deal properly to even be in the right ballpark number. Because imagine you could negotiate the same way, but what if you could offer $200,000 more than whatever number you gave to them last time? Like
Right.
if nothing changed about the conversation except for the fact that you could offer 100 to 200 grand more, would that make a difference? Maybe, maybe not, right? And then that's where it comes to step 3. Well, maybe it's just not a motivated seller to begin with, and I shouldn't be making an offer. But you might say, Nate, well, where do I get to just pull 100, 200K out of nowheres to add to the offer? And that's where it comes back to analyzing the real estate deal, because I might be analyzing it the wrong way. And I'm using a formula like 70% times ARV minus repairs. That's super conservative. And then I'm guessing on the rehab, right? When I say guessing, either just a ballpark guess, or I'm using like a generic price per square foot to get an estimated rehab. And guys, all the time, I've done this example so many times to where I'll run the numbers as to what a buyer actually says they're able to offer, and that versus if I just did the 70% formula. In markets to where the ARV is like 350, maybe 400,000, I'm getting typically between $70,000 and $90,000 more I'm able to offer, right? Like that's average. A lot of times it's even more than that.
Yeah, wow. Well, so anyway, Nate, so what would your suggestion be for people that are watching this and they're like, okay, guys, I'm a little confused. We want to give them some clarity since we've been kind of giving them some juice all over.
Yeah, so some clarity on that with first thing, well, do you want to start with the motivated lead part?
Well, well, you were just kind of hitting on how you can offer a little bit more, right?
Yeah, so perfect.
That's from your that's having relationships, right?
So let's go back to my garage. And the other thing I noticed is my garage. I think you said you're tuning in from LA, California. I don't know if that's your real estate market that you're working in. I'm going to assume so. South LA. So I'm going to assume that's the market you're working. Guys, again, 70%. If you're in a market to where ARV is like 150,000, 30% of 150,000, it's not that much money. You're in a market like LA or New York, 30% is a huge chunk of money. Right now, the thing is when we take out that huge chunk, like just look at the number and be like, dude, do you think somebody would flip a house for a number less than that? Right? California, especially LA, probably, I don't typically work that market, but average house, what, over $1 million? Easy, I would guess. Like $1 million's probably on the low side.
Yeah, he's saying it's around 900K.
Yeah, so 30%. I mean, guys, you're talking almost 300 grand. Now, I don't know if any of you guys are flipper, but do you think anybody in LA would flip a house for less than a $300,000 profit? I would say probably, right? And so with analyzing the deal, you had mentioned, I have a cash buyer asking me every day. Absolutely love this. This is what you're going to do. Next time you have an opportunity or a lead, right? Make sure it's motivated. And again, that's the foundation. Do I have a motivated seller, right? With a house that we can add value to, and there's a problem that I can uniquely solve. If we have those two pieces, right? Step 3, well, let me take the guessing out of it. Let me just reach out to the buyer and have him tell me what he thinks ARV is, what he thinks the rehab is, and what he thinks he'd be able to offer. Nobody is going to have a better answer than the buyer. Why? Because he's the one buying it. And the most important piece is the answer is going to change depending on what buyer you're talking to, right? And guys, like really listen to this. You could have the same house, the same ARV, the same rehab, the same seller, right? Same exact house. You've got one buyer. He goes, he looks at it, and he's looking to buy it, move into it, fix it up himself, and then sell it. A second guy looks at it. He's looking to buy it. He has his own crews that are going to fix it up and then sell it. I've got a third guy that's telling me I'm absolutely crazy and the rehab's twice what I think it is. And it's because he listened to like one episode of Bigger Pockets and he got all premium subcontractor quotes. Guys, I love Bigger Pockets. I'm just making a joke, right? And I've got a fourth guy to where not only does he have his own crews, but because he does so many flips in volume, he buys materials in bulk at a massive discount, and he can do that same rehab for a fraction of the cost of anybody else. And that's not even including, well, what about the person analyzing it as a rental property? What about the person analyzing it as an Airbnb? What about the person analyzing it to where they're going to rent by the room or do like a pad split? What about the person that's going to put an addition, right? Or what about the person that's going to turn it into an assisted living facility? Guys, you get my drift, right? That's a beautiful thing with real estate is there's so many things somebody can do with a property. How can I possibly pinpoint what the value, it depends on who I'm talking to. And one person might offer, if we're in LA, a cash offer, one guy might offer $600,000 cash. You might have another buyer willing to offer $850,000 cash. And you might say, Nate, that is absolutely insane. Who would do that? Depends on who the buyer is. Depends on what things cost. And both buyers might be right. That might be their best offer, but they might have totally different circumstances. We had a deal in Utah to where first buyer that walked it, right? The first like 5 buyers that walked it, they were all between 160 and 175 with their offer. The guy we sold it to paid 250. It's almost $100,000 more. And guys, it's not because there's a sucker born every minute. No, that's a company that does rehabs, like over 100 rehabs a year nationwide. They know what they're doing.
And by the way, that company doesn't always beat the other offers that came in lower. It's just depends. It's kind of crazy. So anyway, what we're trying to say, guys, is when you're looking at a deal, you don't just bring every deal. Like I'm talking to a seller, they're like, what can you offer? I don't bring that deal to my buyer, my garage. That's not someone I want to waste my buyer's time on. You only bring those opportunities to your buyers that are opportunities, are people that are interested in selling, that have a problem, that you can solve a problem and solve their problem. And the offer is like the last thing, how you complete solving the problem. That's not always the thing that solves it. You can solve it in many different ways on how you structure the offer. Now, look, we're not going to get too crazy more in depth with this, guys. All we're trying to say is be careful how you use your time, use it wisely, make sure you're not just bringing deals that, anybody wants to sell and asking your buyers what they'd pay. That's not what we're talking about. Identify the opportunities, identify why they're selling. If there's a problem you can help, then you can leverage your relationships to help you offer way more than 70% of ARV minus repairs minus rehab. There's a way better way to do it. Nate, do you have anything you want to say before we wrap up?
Yeah, guys, the simplest thing with wholesaling is take the guessing out of it. Right. So you can get ballpark ideas as far as I think ARVs around here. Rehabs, I personally don't even try to guess. And guys, the thing is, if a buyer asks me, I never say either one of those numbers ever. If a buyer asks me, hey, what do you think ARV is? I don't say, I think ARV is this. I'll answer it with, well, I saw that this property sold at this price and this one sold at this price. Here were the differences with those two properties, right? Different. Same thing with rehab. Hey, what do you think the rehab is on this? Well, I know the roof's 25 years old. The seller said it needs electrical. And, they updated whatever last year. See, the difference is I'm presenting inarguable evidence, right? ARV, and this is the whole kind of thing with the 70% rule and why it's so flawed. ARV is suggestive. Same thing with the rehab. If I bring something that's subjective to the buyer, well, it's really easy for me to argue and disagree with that. How can you tell me I'm wrong? We can just have a back and forth and disagree, right? And at that point, it's a dead deal because now we're arguing back and forth over what we think a comp is and what we don't think a comp is. But if I just present the facts, again, building a case like in court, and then take the guessing out of it. I don't guess what ARV is. I'll let the buyer tell me, right? And then from there, and again, like I said, whatever that person says is true for them. Now, I might ask them, right? If you're like, dude, I think ARV is right around 900, and the buyer's like, nah, I think ARV is like 720. If you're just like, why? Where does that even come from? Right? If you think they're really far off on something, guys, here's the magic phrase. Hey, Mr. Buyer, help me understand. Well, what am I missing? I'm seeing this house and this house sold for this price. It sounds like I'm missing something, right? Simple as that. And then one of two things will happen. They'll either be like, well, all right, I see what you're saying, but I don't think it's that high, right? And then okay, they're just trying to hustle me down on money, which is fine. That's just them negotiating. Or they're going to tell you, yeah, well, it's because those houses have X, Y, and Z, and this one has, 1, 2, 3. And then you learn something new and you're like, oh, right? Just kind of like that view, right? The buyer's like, well, yeah, that's because you didn't realize that one had a view overlooking a national park that's unlike anything else. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right. So take the guessing out of it. Have conversations with your buyers. They'll tell you what the ARV is. And then you can go from there.
So check this out, Nathan. Love it. crushing it. Appreciate how in depth you go. Gloryful Skip is saying, before we go, what are some great questions you can ask your buyers to qualify them best? I got something better for you. We're not going to just answer this for you just right now. I'm going to give you the script that we use. Okay. So guys, what we have is we have a free Facebook group. It's called the Painless Flipping Free Facebook group because it's free. All you have to do is go type in Painless Flipping Free Facebook group into Facebook and you'll find it. Ask to join. We have a free course on how to work with buyers like what we're talking about right now. If you go right, the first part is picking your market. Second is finding buyers. If you go through the training, we'll give you a bonus, which is our cash buyer script. Okay. But I want you to go through the training so you just don't get the script and you don't know how to use it. Okay. So anyway, it's a literally free training for everybody. And then, like I said, all you got to do is go get your cash buyer script. So that will be better than us just telling you like one or a couple questions asked. Just go get the script. Like I said, again, it's just at Painless Flipping Free Facebook group. Under the guide section, we have a 4-step course that tells you how to leverage your cash buyers to do more deals, how to do deals the painless way. I hope that helps all you guys out. But yeah, Nate, do you have anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I'll end it with, so I wanted to go through the 3 points of pain, right? So we talked about the elbow pain, which was my garage thinking that the problem's negotiating, right? That's not, I would argue that's not the problem here, right? Not the elbow pain. We talked about the shoulder, right? Hey, we have the elbow pain because the shoulder's not working properly, right? Which is, we're not analyzing the deal properly, right? So we talked about that. But the real thing, right? The back pain that's causing all of it, or the tight back muscles, the tight lats, that is not having a motivated seller. Now, that may or may not be the case here, right, with this specific scenario with you. But how do we know if we have a motivated seller? Guys, I'm going to speed through this in 10 seconds. If you got pen, pad, and paper, write it down, or rewind this and watch it again. Watch it a couple times. All right, every time you talk to a seller, there's these 4 questions. Every single time, right, I ask these questions. Number 1, hey, Mr. and Ms. Seller. Hey, Mr. and Ms. Seller. And I'll ask these questions when we're going through and I'm asking them about condition. Hey, so tell me a little bit about the house. How old's the roof? I'm like, hey, let me ask you, have you thought about maybe just listing it with an agent and sort of going that route? That's question number 1. Have you thought about listing it with an agent? They're like, yeah, we've thought about it. Okay, got it. Well, what's held you back from just moving forward with that, right? We want to know what's the why. What's the why behind that? That's question number 1. All right. Then, okay, got it. Now tell me a little bit. What's the kitchen like? What kind of shapes? Okay, got it. Nice. Hey, I know you said it needs this and that. Have you thought about maybe just fixing it up yourself and then selling it? You'll get more money that way. Well, yeah, I don't really want to do that. Oh, okay. Well, why is that? What's holding you back from just doing that? Okay, got it. All right. So now tell me a little, what's kind of the backyard stuff like? Okay, got it. Question number 3. Hey, have you considered maybe just renting out the property? And guys, typically the sellers will cut you up, be like, oh my gosh, we don't want to rent it out. We don't want to deal with tenants or this or that, blah, 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 blah. Right. But if they're like, we thought about it. Okay, got it. Well, what's held you back from just moving forward with that? Guys, I swear, if you listen to my calls, I'll say the same thing 5 times. All right. Well, what's holding you back? What's holding you back? What's holding you back? Right. And then last but not least, question number 4. Okay, got it. Well, Mr. Seller, I know you said you wanted $1 million for the shed, but I'll be honest, that's a tough price to get to. Is just staying in the house an option for you? Are you able to just stay here, or do you have family or kids, or maybe somebody you can just kind of pass the property on to? Those are the 4 questions. Now, guys, have a little bit of emotional intelligence, right? If you're talking with them and it's, they're like, yeah, I don't have any family or this, that. Obviously, I'm not going to ask question number 4, right? Because they kind of already answered it. But we want to ask those questions. If I ask, hey, have you thought about listing it with an agent? They're like, yeah, I have. We're meeting with one on Friday. I'm going to ask once. Okay, got it. Well, what's holding you back from just listing it with them on Friday? They're like, well, we're planning to list it for an LA. We're planning to list it for $900,000. Okay, well, is there any reason you wouldn't just list it for $900,000 with the agent? They're like, well, yeah, we're talking to you because you said you can pay cash and close quick and there's no closing costs. So if we can get $900,000 cash and it's an easier process and we don't have to pay commission, yeah, sure, I'll do that. Not a motivated seller, right? Same thing with fixing it up. Hey, Mr. Ms. Seller, have you guys thought about fixing it? Yeah, we have. Well, what's holding you back? Well, we were going to see what your offer is. If you're able to pay our price, great. If not, yeah, we were going to put in granite countertops, paint these 2 rooms, and then we were going to list it. Okay. Well, it sounds like that's probably the best option for you, right? And same thing, renting it out when you get my drift, right? And guys, with making offers, last thing I'll give you, and I got this from Alex Ramosi, making offers should be like guys, we're going all night. You know what? We're not leaving.
Bro, I thought we were wrapping it up like 10 minutes ago, dude. I'm just, my
Guys, I'm
eyes
just
are
like,
rolling back.
I can't let you. Once I get going, man, I just want to keep going and give all the
Hey
sauce
guys,
to you guys.
I'm out of here. Nate's
So,
got this. I was just kidding.
so last thing, right, with making offers. Number one, if you're just getting started or you're newer, rule of thumb, like don't make an offer on that first call. Even if the person's asking, like do your best to try really hard to not make an offer. Even if they're like, no, please give me an offer. Be like, hey, look, I mean, it's a big decision. There's a lot of stuff I got to take in consideration. I don't just want to throw a number.
Your
way.
offer
Let
is
me
your,
take a look
that's like your ammo. That's like, that's you. Like once they get that
It's
from
the
you, they don't
only
need you anymore.
it's the only leverage you have.
That's your leverage.
So
That's your
making an
leverage.
offer should be like proposals. Now, there's exceptions to every rule, right? But most of the time when somebody proposes, they typically already know what the answer is going to be. Making an offer should be the exact same way. I do not make an offer unless I'm like 99% sure, yeah, they're going to say yes to this, right? Most of the time, like 80% of the time, I already have gotten a soft yes for them at that number before I even say, yes, I can do that number. This is my offer. All right. Now, again, don't worry. Remember, right? Elbow pain, shoulder pain, back pain, right? Back issue. Fix the, hey, do I have a motivated seller, right? With the questions. Then worry about, am I analyzing this property correctly, right? Number one thing is getting feedback from your buyer and listening to them. And then number three is, hey, make an offer like a proposal.
That's it. I love it. Love it. Nathan, you crush it as always. And we got Gloryful Skip just saying, thanks, Nathan. We actually, thanks to both of you. Well, okay. Well, thank you.
You can analyze deals, but reading is kryptonite.
It is a strong. I love the
Hey
fact
guys,
that
if you're like, dude, this stuff was great, but like you guys ran through some of the stuff really quick, or you'd love it, like you were saying earlier, the Facebook group, it's free, and we do a lot more stuff in there. We go live, we post stuff specifically in there. So if you want to kind of know a little bit more as to like, hey, you guys talk, like, tell me a little bit more about those qualifying, Nate, tell me a little bit more. How do you handle that negotiating part? Like how do you handle that process, to making that offer? Guys, join the Facebook group, post questions in there, because we look at that like pretty much like a hawk. And we
my guy right here, Idris right here, which is Gloryful Skip, just joined. Round of applause for Gloryful Skip. He did it. He joined the group.
So yeah, if you guys want to know more, keep watching us on YouTube, but definitely the Facebook group's a great place too. And yeah, hope to chat with you guys and see you guys all there.
And look, when you guys join, you're part of the family, just like Vin Diesel. All these Vin Diesels family, you're a part of it, guys. Let's go.
What?
Vin Diesel, he's all about family. He's always like family. So I figured when people join, we welcome them to the family, just like Vin Diesel. You like that?
Well,
it's a little different, but it's fun. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. We've had a good time. Again, we'll see you next week. We ain't going nowhere. All right. This is all we do. We do deals and we tell people how to do deals so we can do more deals. And we just love deals and we love helping people progress. So see you later.
All right, guys, let's go over how to pick a no, I'm kidding. Guys, love you. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you got a lot out of today. See you guys soon.
Later. Bye.
Hey everybody, what's up? It's Nathan Payne, and for the first time ever, we just released this insane training bundle that has literally everything that I've learned from doing a combined 4,000 deals in real estate, all from starting with absolutely no previous business background experience or any real estate experience. Plus, there's over $19,000 worth of free gifts that we're throwing in, all for an insanely low price. If you want to get your hands on this, be sure to click the first link on the description below right now.